Good evening, St. Barnabas. It's Wednesday evening at dusk, and I'm in our garden to bring you this week's Rector's update. And it's intentional, specifically intentional, this evening that I come to you from our garden because I want to speak a word of encouragement by linking us to our 2,000-year-old history. So often people ask me, Jim, when are we going to be able to get back together? When can we gather again? When can we celebrate and worship in our sanctuary again? And I have to say, I really don't know. I just don't know. There's so much we don't know about this virus, and so we just don't know. Now, I am aware that there's a lot of conversation about removing restrictions and encouraging people to be more active and go back to work and be active in various ways. And I'm not qualified to talk about that. I do want to point out to us that how we gather as a church is different than most of that. What it would mean for us to be close together and to be singing and worshiping together, and the risks that creates for us are different. And so I want to encourage us to go back to the early days of our 2,000-year history. For the first 250 or 300 years of the church was in and out of persecution, sometimes very severe persecution. And so that persecution was a threat to the church. What's happening now is a threat to us in a different way, but in a similar way. It means we need to gather differently. And there are some spectacular stories about how the Christians gathered in those early days. And they gathered in the strong memory and experience of the risen Jesus. They gathered in the tombs, and that's why it's meaningful that I'm here in our garden. They gathered in the catacombs, and they gathered in homes, which we cannot do. We can't gather in those ways the way they did, but we have other ways we can gather. And the reports are that because of persecution, one of the things that became the sign for the early believers, early followers of Jesus, was the fish symbol. They would meet each other on the roads and the byways, and one person would draw in the sand a half of a fish, and the other person might complete that half of the fish, and they would look at each other knowing that they were believers in the risen Jesus, and that they encouraged and strengthened each other to live in the strength of that experience of the risen Christ. And so we need that today. We need it for ourselves, and we need to give it to each other. We need to make phone calls. We need to send emails. We need to gather in our Zoom meetings online. Radically different than how they found ways to encourage each other 2,000 years ago. But it was their experience of the risen Jesus that gave their life, that was life's foundation, gave their lives meaning and hope, and they strengthened each other in that. And so, perhaps an unexpected gift of this time, and frankly, there have been several kinds of unexpected gifts arise to us, and I suspect as I say that you have thoughts of your own about that. One of the unexpected gifts could be that we're finding the need to sink deep into our faith in a different way. When other consolations and comforts and supports are not available to us, we're finding our way to meet Jesus again within ourselves, to experience the risen Christ again within ourselves, and then to find ways to connect with others, to encourage them and to be encouraged. And so, I don't have a lot of detailed data today for you. Frankly, I'd like you to know that next week or the week after, it's my hope that the senior warden and I will be coming to you with some more specific information about about how our church is doing and what our needs are and what our strategy is and how we're looking out into the future, and especially what our financial situation is right now. Well, I'm hoping that we'll come to you with a more detailed report like that in the next week or two. But in the meantime, I encourage you to continue to be the people of God at St. Barnabas, to continue to sink deep into your faith and to connect with others in every way that you can, to strengthen one another. Let this be a time when our church gets stronger, not weaker. Together, let's let it be a time when the risen Lord thrives in us and that we thrive in Him. I'm grateful. I'm deeply grateful to be here with you in this time. Amen.